So I'd like to welcome you to the Mankind Metamorphosis, the evolution and future of the human experience. And this is a mini masterclass, and I am Majesty AliNICOLE WOW, and I'm looking forward to bringing this mini masterclass to you today. I always encourage individuals when they take trainings with me to make sure that you have note-taking material so that you can jot down some of the wisdom and insight that I'm going to be providing. Certainly, you're going to have some ahas. The nature of this mini masterclass is really like a mini info training. It really is just to inform you about the progression of where things are going in terms of our human experience and how you need to start being able to understand the fundamentals around that so that you can have a new human development type of experience. And on that note, I am a new divine human potential authority, and I do coaching and new human anatomy shifting, in this particular area. And it's been my passion over the years to help individuals go through their own human metamorphosis so that they can become new creations of what's going to be required for this new world experience, which is a new human experience. So I want to just start off by talking about mankind as a whole. And we know that embodies really men and women, so to speak. It's mankind, the human experience, and what the metamorphosis entails. So metaphorically, we've been taught over the years that when you think about a caterpillar that goes through a metamorphosis process and then becomes a butterfly, it's been taught in more of a transformational type of process, and transformation certainly is a part of it. I teach it from an evolutionary process in terms of it becoming a different entity of expression, a completely different being. And it breaks down in that chrysalis experience, and then it reformats into a completely different, again, entity of expression. And yes, that is transformational for sure, but again, it is really an evolutionary process in the human capacity because humans evolve. Transformation for us is not enough because we shift from being tadpoles that transform into frogs. In a sense, that's just an adult version of a frog. When it comes to a caterpillar does not become an adult version of a caterpillar when it goes through a chrysalis process. It breaks down again and reformats into a completely different expression. It's a butterfly at that point. So again, the human experience is very evolutionary. And where we are going in terms of humanity's evolution and things that are progressing is going to require a new human format, becoming anew. We hear biblically in terms of if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has been done away with and the new has come. And in the evolutionary expansion, we are taking on different formats of our human experience, which will play out in our shifting of anatomy, but also in our life's purposes, how we engage life as a whole. And life itself is a very purposed, not just driven life. It is that we are on purpose. We are purpose, but we are it in a very evolutionary way. So what starts to take place globally, because this is a mankind shift, is that we shift from being new and improved beings to being new creations. And that's actually that's not what's been taking place over the years. And something that I teach in terms of this process is, and people having the awareness around this, is that we are a minimum of 50 years behind in human evolution, which means all of the innovations that have taken place are still behind, no matter how advanced they seem, okay? And it's really caused us to be in a holding pattern in terms of the progression, and also man's ability to develop himself with a character that is aligned and matches the evolution of one's purpose. a lot of times they're very mismatched in a sense. You can see people who they develop in their skill, but then they lack the character on multiple levels to be able to sustain that, or they get so lost in their mission and purpose that it actually disconnects them from the true intent of why they were put here to do that. But even with our life's purposes, that expands, and I'll talk a little bit about that, as this ensues. But globally, man will be undergoing a breakdown, a metamorphosis, and starting to decompose the old life, and so that this new life can take place. And the earth within itself, that's happening. There's the birthing of so much. That's why even when we had the pandemic to take place, it shifted and changed a lot of how we would start to function in a different capacity. And even though as things progressed and we found a way to manage that, people started trying to really go back to the old format, business as usual. They wanted the old life instead of a new life that was trying to emerge. And so, believe it or not, COVID was more of just kind of a forerunner in terms of what is actually queuing up in more of the breakdown and decomposing of the old structures. So why do the old structures need to go away? Even those that have been working, is because we are coming into a new earth, a new now earth experience, where even biblically that's been taught in terms of a new earth was when everybody supposedly dies, and then those who go to heaven come back and inhabit a new earth. Well, there's been kind of some faulty teachings, around that. The new now earth, which is something that is consistently birthing anew, and it is within each individual, is that we have to understand that things are becoming anew consistently. So there's a new earth trajectory that's already been playing out. It's not some major event that we're waiting for and hoping that we get to experience it. It is coming upon us regardless, okay? And even what I'm sharing is not in a, religious way or to try to bring up any type of perspective. It is just metaphorically leveraging what we can understand in terms of where we believe we've been going. And you'll see a lot of the different structures break down, even systematized, institutionalized religion, a lot of the different concepts that have been truth concepts. You're going to see those break down. Again, why are they breaking down? Because the new is here. So then there's going to be a new narrative for humanity, a new narrative for our spirituality, a new narrative for our divine nature. And so what predated in the old earth experience, you're going to see a lot of that go away. So what has been the New Testament of the human experience actually starts to become more historical. It becomes more of the Old Testament, because the New Now Testament of humanity is what's coming forth. So that is going to require that mankind become anew in their physiology and their understanding of how things are going to be playing out moving forward. All right. So when we talk about, again, the evolution in the future, something that I want to say, no matter how much we've been taught that they're fixed frames of the future, of these things are going to happen, what we'll find is that those are different trajectories of possibilities. And each person is choosing what trajectory that they're going to play on. All right. So when we hear about end times, so to speak, that is a trajectory, but that's not necessarily something that collectively everybody's going to participate in, because some people will choose a different trajectory. When we hear things like the rapture, that is a trajectory that is being ascended above the different things that are going to be breaking down in the world system. Okay. And again, why is this happening? Because there's a newer emergence that's coming. This is very practical. It's not even from a religious perspective, but I'm just sharing it metaphorically in these contexts because the Bible talks about this. And those are truths that have an evolutionary concept. But again, even most people within that paradigm have actually taught it from a very flawed perspective. So that's going to be something else that comes up in terms of the breakdown of what have been the truths that have been, quote unquote, slightly sustainable to better our human experience, but also have played a part in the lag behind in evolution. And it simply is time for that. So going back metaphorically to leveraging the caterpillar and the cocoon experience that brings about a butterfly, in the process, that caterpillar becomes unformed, and it is no longer a caterpillar. That at that point it's unformed. It's shedding away the old data of that way of being, and what's happening in the middle is it's a reformulation. And it's more like how the Bible does talk about separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. There is a separating of the old information, and then there's the new. They're simultaneously there together, but the newer format is what is now pressing out, if you will, the old data, that old way of being, and introducing man into the new data so that he can start to ground, he or she can start to ground and reformat, so that when they come into this new form, then again, they're going to have the information and data of how you need to live this life. But in the middle of that process, because we've been so grounded in what we know our understanding to be in the life that we've known, is that it takes a little bit of time, for sure, depending on the individual, to shed away from that old life and allow the new to progress. Now, every caterpillar is encoded to become a butterfly, but every caterpillar, for various reasons, doesn't make it to become a butterfly. They either, become expired in a sense in that caterpillar life, meaning they didn't make it even to the chrysalis point, okay, for, again, various reasons. And then some that do make it into the chrysalis point, they don't actually survive the process. So they never come into a new formation so that they can become, yes, the butterfly, and then go on to live that life. In the human experience, it's very much the same. There are people who've never even reached the surface potential, even in their caterpillar state. And then there are some who went on the journey to go through in that transformational type of way of being to come into something new, and then they simply don't. The cares of life choke them out, different, various things. They don't make it through the process. So that dream and their purpose sort of dies within that unformed state. They never come into full formation. And then, there's those who will definitely stay the course and come into this new human experience, all right? So the breaking down will result in various things. There will be people who maybe don't make it fully out of the metamorphosis. That's kind of been happening because people haven't been awake that is what's been going on anyway. But they come into the awareness and the enlightenment about how things are supposed to be. So they actually do become anew. But again, depending on what age they are and where they come into this experience, depends on how the fullness of it will play out, but it's going to play out the way it needs to for each individual experience. All right. So, there's a lot around this, and I do teachings and trainings, on this, particular aspect, but how people navigate an experience like this is very much going to depend on them. If they're in resistance to the change and not partnering with the change that's going to be occurring regardless, then they simply are going to be choked out in what I call the soul's illumination process. Most call it the dark night of the soul. They'll be in that chrysalis process in an unformed state, trying to struggle to hold on. And as Jesus states, that he who tries to save his life is going to lose it, but he who's willing to lose his life will find it, will save it, will pick it up again. But it's in a very different format, a very different context. So we have to be able to understand that mankind is going to be going through this shift, and things are going to break down. And it will start with the livelihood of how individuals just live their lives, every day. And the way that we've shown up for our life's purposes, all of that is going to change. is simply going to change. We can no longer have the new and improved formats because, as I mentioned, that's what's been happening. There has really been no true evolution to come forth. That's why we look out in history over time and we can say, why are we still kind of in the same place from a humanity perspective? Why is racism still at an all-time high a certain way? Why is world hunger the way that it is? Why are these different things, they've really not been solved? Why are many missionaries going into other countries or so, and there's still no real change here? And again, that's because everything has been being done under a transformational capacity or process, if you will, and not a full-blown breakdown of an evolution of a new creation. A new creation is something new. It's not something that already exists that then just became a newer format. And of course, you are in a human experience. So yes, your physicality or so will be the same representation, but your anatomy would have changed so that you could be a participant in this world in a different way, okay? And that is kind of the new emergence that's going to be taking place. So our human experience is changing. The end of the world as we know it is really at hand, and it has been. And there are different eras and different things of the breakdown of that have been happening, but now man will have to consciously understand and partner with this experience to know we can no longer try to preserve the old. We have to be recalibrated, recoded and recalibrated for a new experience. And this will take on a very divine nature of how we're supposed to be. There's something in my works that I've taught over the years for divine human butterflies is, you know, we are here to play out these greater works. We're here to be a newer expression of what's true for the world now, right? And that's been changing over the years. But within that, we do activate a divine DNA. We come from, regardless of whether you're religious or not, we come from divinity. We come from a creator. We were made in that creative image. And so we are here to play out various aspects of being extensions of that, all right? The source in which we spring forth from. But it's going to require a new human calibration for this new world experience. And again, I have, different trainings. This also involves, finances. Everything about life will start to break down so that the new can come. And from the financial piece, which I have trainings on financial metamorphosis, and you'll, be able to avail yourself to that product in the description, is that the way we participate in life is going to change, and it will basically hit people in livelihood and finances first, because that's what's going to get most people's attention. So when that financial metamorphosis and the dollar decomposing, you're having to come into a different level of currency understanding, is going to wake you up to other areas of life where you're going to have to participate differently. Life in the new human experience is about being able to get into your own unique encoding. Just as I mentioned that every caterpillar has the encoding of a butterfly but doesn't become one, right? Every human has the encoding of this divine potential, but that doesn't happen for everyone because of their not willing to allow the process to ensue. And there used to be a time where people could drag their feet on things, but we're at a time now in humanity's evolution where it simply cannot be. You're going to evolve, as Usher, the recording artist Usher, has a quote, you're going to either evolve or evaporate. You are going to participate in this new human experience or there won't be one for you. And that simply is the truth. It's not something that we have been taught. The Bible talks about no eyes have seen, no ears have heard, and the greater works. And that's part of my higher mission, even in the new divine human potential, is that my greater wow works. We're here to bring forth these greater works. and to have a customized experience that is unique to our encoding, unique to our anatomy. So man will have to start cracking open his unique encoding. And it's something I teach in life codes coaching, is understanding what your unique DNA is. And that's going to be in a new format. So even the older stuff that we've been taught, that changes. Some of the fundamental principles that I teach in this process, in the new creation process, is you have to be metamorphosized, evolutionized, and then optimized. And that's optimum living, playing out an optimum experience, all right? But around that, there are new fundamentals. So there's new foundations that are laid, new formation that you become, and then a new functionality that you operate from as a new human, all right? And this is not superficial woo-woo type of stuff. This is very practical, but it is that we are here to come into this higher evolution. And there's been, as I mentioned, such a lag behind because there's been more of the, the becoming new and improved. And again, until certain things change, nothing about the world is going to change holistically. And we'll be continuously in a looping factor like we have been for so many years, thinking that we've made progress. And have we made progress in some areas? Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, more transformational, not evolutionary, something that can't go back. And that's, metaphorically, in the transformational process, people think, okay, well, transformation means that, it took on a new form. It became something different. But if you think even about certain movies, so like the Frog Prince or Princess Frog, there's so many different variations of it, is that even when there was a kiss that transformed a frog into a prince, but there was the possibility that that could reverse itself too. And we've seen that, all right, in different cases. Now, one of my main empires is G1 Transformers. And so we know Transformers, they transform from robot into vehicle or plane form or some type, they transform, but they're able to shape shift in a sense and change back into what they were, right? So we want something that becomes a new creation that can't actually revert back. Now, the Transformers, that's a bit different, but maybe the frog to the tadpole to the frog is more the metaphor I'm looking to use, where it just grew up to become a bigger frog. And we call that transformation. We start looking at growth and transformation kind of the same. And though they're synonymous, it's different in terms of evolution. So a caterpillar does not become a bigger caterpillar. It goes through the process to become a new creation. And that's what's having to happen with our human experience and even in our potential. So how our life purposes will play out will be different too. And traditionally, how when you've had a journey, you typically turn around and then share that journey with someone, and you think that that's your life mission, that's your life calling. Or you feel called to a purpose and you go to school for that, you build your life kind of around that, and you think that that's how it's going to be. And the new human experience, really our preparation of a journey actually prepares us for different levels of things. So it's multifacetedness that plays out, and no just one singular calling anymore, the way that we see it, or life's occupation a certain way. Life is going to demand more of the fullness of the human potential that comes out to be played in different ways. So our life purposes shift, how we show up in life and participate in life, everything changes. Something that I teach in my disruptive living with Lifeonomics, and Lifeonomics is using the economy of life, the whole of your experience. And so the new human experience is about leveraging the whole of who you are in multiple different ways, and that plays out. So that within itself is very disruptive, because man is used to functioning one-dimensionally versus multidimensional, and not in a esoterical way, and not operating in a multidimensional, multi-trajectory type of experience. So those are things that you're going to see that start to take place in the human shifting. The way that people participate in jobs, so to speak, primarily 85% of individuals, no matter what age they are, going into the adulthood experience, are going to have to pretty much participate in some type of entrepreneurial expression, in a sense, and be in the business of who they are, the business of their life. Like my primary functionality is my life is my niche. Is I leverage the whole of my life. I'm cross-functional. I'm cross-trained in over 200 areas. I have published over 300 works on Amazon for different industries, and created over 1,000 online platforms that serve primarily as training development hubs. And they contain publications and products and apparel, different things. I've created my own Amazon marketplaces, so to speak. And I've taken on a different nature from a very uninstitutionalized and unconventional way of playing out my life's purpose. Now, that's not required of everybody to do it on that magnitude, but bringing forth the prism and the multidimensionalism will be a huge part of the human experience, and operating life in a very cross-functional way, and leveraging the whole of life. So again, the breakdown, man is going to become a new creation where we aren't used to operating at a greater capacity in terms of our human potential. We are used to seeing people, yes, they do multiple things or whatever, but they're human doings and they're not human beings. It's not embodiment of a beingness. God is not efforting. Divine, expression is not efforting and laboring the way that we have been accustomed to. We've been conditioned to be under a fallen world type of premise. And though that held for an old Earth trajectory grid, it will not for a new Earth trajectory grid, a new now Earth trajectory grid. It will not hold. The way we show up, we've been taught to be problem solvers in this world. In the newer trajectory, we are solution-oriented, solution catalyst, and things change to how man even perceives what problems are. Obstacles aren't obstacles, they are opportunities, and they contain encoding to crack that open to understand what that really means for the greater expansion and purpose. So again, I'm sharing quite a bit here. This is just to inform you that things are going to start to shift. They already are. They're breaking down. And we've had these forerunners of events and things to happen to let you know something else is queuing up. So for those who are getting comfortable and thinking, okay, well, we've kind of moved out of a pandemic world and we are now trying to normalize again in a certain way, again, don't get too comfortable with that, because whatever else is queuing up is going to then come in and to start to break that down so that we morph into this newer way of being. And then the more people who unlock their encoding, that transforms our world. Now, I'm a super source empath, and I've unlocked that encoding within me in my new human potential. And individuals, believe it or not, even non-empathic people are going to start becoming highly sensitive to an old world. And that within itself will be breaking down their anatomy. So the way we participate in our well-being is going to shift and change based on the different dynamics. So this is a very layered process. But again, with understanding and enlightenment around it, it brings illumination so that it does not have to be a very dark experience when man can understand that, okay, I'm becoming anew. The soul's encoding is unlocking and now taking on a different shape and form, but still in a human body, of course. There'll be, of course, some things that won't change, so to speak, but who you are in your orientation will shift. It has to. Otherwise, again, you won't be able to participate in this human experience because the world within itself is opening up empathically. And as that happens, again, even people who have not been empaths are going to start becoming empathic. 85% of the world will end up being empathic in order for this new human experience to really evolutionize in ways. And that's where you're going to be able to tap into more of your superhuman potential, which most people are scared of in a sense. You're going to be able to do that. That's what's going to change the world. That's what's going to impact the world. We want to see world hunger cease. We want to see violence and wars and different things really shift. But unfortunately, a great majority, but there's a handful of people trying to control the dynamics. They don't want that to shift. They need you to be in fear and into problems and to all those different things. That's how they continue to capitalize and gain control. But see, all of that is going away. All that's going to be breaking down. And the illumination of different truths you're going to see. Some of what you've been taught that you've held so fast to, you're going to see a lot of that has been a false narrative, but it has played in some regards to your advantage and helped you. Some of those systems you've been successful, but a lot of people haven't. And so this customized way of being that man is cracking into its own unique encoding, you're going to see things change. Education systems are going to be changing. Everything that you have known to be part of the human experience that have beheld these structures that, that's been your livelihood, all of that is shifting. And again, this is a global initiative. Mankind, all right, is changing. And as that changes, of course, every other kingdom, in a sense, that starts to shift too, which that is already shifting. Humanity is really who's been behind, because we're behind a minimum of 50 years in human evolution, okay? Human evolution. So again, this new human experience will be helping to shift and change that. Now, to get you jump started with this particular initiative, I have different products, below that can help you with that, and different resources and publications that you can start to get understanding in a very, practical way, in a sense, to start making some shifts and changes in your life, even starting to be able to unlock your unique encoding. All right. And what that's going to be for you is going to be individuals moving into their new human identity, their own individuality. And that's going to be financially, that's going to be life purpose. Everything is going to be according to your unique encoding, which brings forth your unique anatomy. And again, the primary areas where you're going to see this shift is it's going to hit people in livelihood and finances. All right, because those are the key areas. But also too, the spiritual component is going to be another breakdown, because new narratives have to come forth for a new world. We can no longer hold on to the old patterns and the old stories of how we've been taught. Yes, they're foundational for sure, but they are not the new now testament of the experience we're supposed to be living out. Everything that was New Testament, and I'm speaking this just practical, that's Old Testament, okay, in terms of how we need to be moving forward. And, there's been the misunderstanding of different concepts and things throughout the years. But again, all of that's going to break down, and you don't want to be behind the 8 ball and be so alarmed and shocked as you see, this breakdown. So me informing you with this mini masterclass is really just setting you up, and kind of a call to action is for you to start being able to explore your new human experience, just in a very practical way. And yes, I do have, as I mentioned, publications and resources, and products that you can explore with that, but just in a very practical way in your everyday life is one way to start cracking into your new human evolution potential, is with the practice of intentional journaling and being topical, having a publication or so, or a notebook or a journal that is specific for your new human evolution experience. And what's your future, which future is just the next now. So 5 minutes from now, we're already in the future, and we have to be able to look at it moment to moment, because that is a moment by moment experience that's happening. It's not some projection of way down the road. It's everything that's being done now that's adding momentum for one now to the next now. All right. You know, we're in the future. When you first started, before you came to this experience of listening to this was a futuristic type of experience because it was something that hadn't happened yet. And now you've engaged it. And now we've gotten more into a next now, a next now. And that's how this is building momentum. So you have now a new understanding in terms of what's emerging, what's developing for you. Now you can start looking in your life and seeing where some things are already playing out, and now where you need to start making the shifts and partner with this decomposing aspect, partner with the metamorphosis, allow yourself to go through the human cocoon experience. And simultaneously, when you are doing intentional journaling, you get to witness your old brain and your new brain, and it's simultaneously acting together. You'll be able to track it. Then you'll be able to start separating the wheat from the chaff, in a sense, in terms of what's old and what's new. All right. And so you can ask yourself questions, you know, in terms of, I do a lot of journal prompt coaching, and you can ask yourself, you know, what is the metamorphosis of my experience? What is the evolution of my experience? Or get curious to know about your new human potential and how you should be participating in life. Again, it's a very customized experience. Now, again, I have resources that can help bring some guidance and structure. But for those of you that maybe just want to do this just kind of on your own, which you kind of can't go through a metamorphosis, even though it's a lonely process, you can't really do it without some type of guidance of the new. It's not something that you can wing it, but at least, you know, you can start to ask yourself these questions, and then things will start to be added onto you. So this is just basics in terms of mankind metamorphosis and things you can look to see that will be happening as the evolution is taking place, and the future that is unformed is forming uniquely according to, you know, man's individual experience. So again, check the description. I hope that this has been helpful and beneficial to you, and you've learned and been informed and empowered and awakened now, because you're aware of things that are progressing. Wishing you the absolute best in terms of your livelihood. And I look forward to bringing you more trainings of this nature, or having you to join me on other trainings for different topics that I do as it relates to the evolution and the future. Wishing you the absolute best. Take care and stay blessed.